And Matlala, um, 44 years old, proud to be, mother of two, married 24 years, daughter, still have both my parents, and siblings. I've got three siblings, and a total at heart entrepreneur. I love what I do. I live for what I do. And most importantly is if I impart a bit of myself daily to somebody, that's all I live for. My parents were entrepreneurs. They owned the fish and chip shops, in the location, and they grew from there. They had a spa, and then they had shoe boutiques where they would export shoes from Brazil, Italy, and Chile. And they then had cinemas and video libraries. But to cut it short, when every other child was out there playing, we were behind the counter serving customers. That was our play. I was told I was a dreamer. I was never going to amount to anything. I was never a good academic. Simple as that. Because I was sitting there, I was dreaming about how can I make anything more possible for myself. Especially in primary school, it wasn't important to learn how to spell properly or how to write properly. It was a matter of how can I actually make money if I had to sell this book to somebody else. What money can I get out of it? If I go to standard 2 and I had to sell my standard 1 books, I'd be able to make money instead of just putting them away. And for me, that was the most important thing than sitting in class and listening to the teacher tell me how to spell. And in that instant, they thought I was just a dreamer who would never amount to anything. And lo and behold, my dreams are actually the best things that ever happened to me. My parents, as I say, were entrepreneurs. So this lifestyle for me is not something I just eventually walked into. This is me, who I was. And much as we had everything, I mean, we had a cook, we had a person who cleaned, we had a gardener, we had a driver, the works, and go back to apartheid time, blacks going through that. We had a pool in a location, and importantly for me was every time, at that time, we still had to clean. My mom made sure we cleaned our rooms. We did much as those people were there to do it and they were paying, we still had to do it. I remember every time I would make up my parents' bed. This was an automatic bed which had this, I think they call them tempo now, these beds. You could put one side and you sit up and it's automatic. The curtains were automatic, electrical, And every time I would do the bed, I would say, this is my house. This is what I'm going to have. It's even going to be better. And I would go on about it in my heart. This is what, and I'd feel it. This is who I'm going to be. Trust me, mine is even 10 times better than what my parents had. Because it was just what I wanted. So yes, their influence was great. Up until today, I still call my parents and say, listen, this is going out of line in my life. I know the business has jumped tenfolds from what you guys used to do, but just your feel, and that is important to me. And I'm very, very blessed and lucky that they're both still there, because it plays a very, very crucial, important thing to me. When I started working, before, let's just go quickly back to when I went to England to finish off my schooling. And when I got to England, that's where I really realized myself, because I was in a college where I did business. Instead of this academic side, which was pushed onto us all the time, it didn't make sense to me. It just wasn't making any sense. So when I got to England, I realized the business side, and I did BTech. My one lecturer said to me, we were running a tuck shop for one of our courses, and she said to me, do you realize that you're going to be a millionaire? She said, you know, one day somebody's going to call me and tell me that Anne is a millionaire. And I thought, this woman is crazy. She is just out of her mind. There is no chance a person just becomes a millionaire like that. What I was doing at that time is what I was used to from home, running a business. But yes, jump a few years later, came back from school, went back home, worked for my parents, and it just didn't make a lot of sense for me because both my sisters, my brother, myself were working at home. The space was too small for me, and I was hungering for something else. So I went out and my father fired me. He did. My father fired me because I just wasn't pulling my weight. I went out there. I went to Quest and did temp work as a secretary for a while, and then went into Kelly to look for permanent position. They took me on as a consultant, did a bit of work for them for about 2.5 years, and was picked up by a client, Seagram, South Africa. And I went to work for them as well, 2.5 years. And at that time, my husband also had a promotion, and we moved down to Petersburg. I mean, for me, it was at a drop of a hat. If hubby moves, that's where the family goes, and I just went. Then started my own business. Worked in Petersburg for Morkels for about 2.5 years. I then started my own business. I did recruitment for a while. Did very well in it, and started events management, where I dabbled with Manhattan coming down to South Africa as well. Took them down to Petersburg and Swaziland, and did a couple of other events. I was doing very well, and hubby then got opportunity to become a director with Woolies in Cape Town. Just closed up shop and moved down. When we moved down, we rented in Bloberg. But then we bought this plot here, and we started building. My husband is engineer by profession. And as we were building, I then registered a construction company and did everything that was legal to register the construction company, and hired people, and then built my own house. After construction, what did I do? I found I had a knack for actually doing interior. Loved doing the finishes. And I called it playing with other people's money, because you would go into somebody else's house, fix it up, but you got to know the person, fix it up to be what they are, and it looks absolutely divine at the end of the day. And that's what I love. That was the beginning of my other business in Cape Town, and I loved it. And as this was also starting off again, as per usual, my husband came and kicked in with another idea. He was then, he had been promoted then to be CEO of Essentials, which is a part of Woolworths. And they ran for about 1.5 years when Woolworths pulled back the project and decided it was like kind of eating into Woolworths itself. And, so having had the taste of also being CEO, and I'd sat him down and said, it's time you actually jumped ship and started your own thing and became your own boss. It's very nice. You do not have to report to anybody, and at the end of the day, you answer to yourself, but you work just as hard. He then said, okay, let's look at what we can do. And Woolies was then looking to bring in BEE people. The store, which God is so good, was right at my doorstep, was also one of the stores that they were actually going to look at giving to people. And we were brought in, interviewed, and we got the store. So we bought that franchise, and that's how I eventually ended up in franchising in a Woolies. As a human being, you have got to understand that the next person is just the same as you. Okay. And I've always had that in me. If you are scared, you are not going to get anywhere in life. And if you don't pursue, you will not get anywhere.